Folks, we have come to an exciting segment of Shiny Conference 2023. As we all know, the R community is always about being inclusive and uplifting everyone in need of help. Even for me back then, as a newbie into the R language, the community was really helpful in sharing resources, helping me in finding the answers to the problems that I had. And with that being said, is everyone ready to meet and talk with some of the pioneering leaders in the R Shiny community who are breaking boundaries and paving the pathway for new budding R Shiny enthusiasts? Today, these amazing individuals will be talking about empowering diversity in the R Shiny community. Let's get to meet our panelists for the day.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining us so lately, at least in Europe. So we couldn't have thought for a better introduction to have to get started with our panel today. So we are really excited to have you, all of us, with us today. And when Joanna, you probably have already met her throughout the conference, us as host the panel, Muna and I, we were like extremely excited, and we started thinking of people to invite, and we couldn't have thought of better panelists. And we're really glad and grateful that you all accepted our invitation. So without any further ado, because we only have this limited time spot and we want to inspire as many people as we can with your path and your journeys, let's do a quick round of introduction. If you want, we can start with Tresna and then do turns. I'll just, I don't know, like if you see yourself in the same order as I see you. So I'll just pass on to the next one. Tresna, the floor is yours. Just say a few words about you and why you think diversity is important.
Okay. So, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Tresna Tanisha. I'm an R Shiny developer in Epsilon from Jakarta, Indonesia. And diversity in Shiny, I think everyone here would agree that one of the awesome thing about Shiny is that it makes building interactive app to be incredibly easy. By easy, I mean you don't need specific requirements, like for example, understanding about front end or back end to write your first Shiny application. Like everyone can build their first Shiny app with no hassle. And what amazing about it is that it makes our Shiny community to be very diverse, like data scientists, marketing analysts, biologists, like people from different background and perspectives with different levels of experience and expertise are contributing to the development and the use of the technology. So I think this importance of diversity in R Shiny is like lets the inclusivity and makes it to become a welcoming environment for everyone, all our Shiny users to use Shiny and contribute more. And yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
Excellent. What a great introduction. Shell, if you want to go next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, excellent.
Awesome. My name is Shell, based in Kenya. I am a data analytics consultant currently working with a lot with Shiny. Also a co-organizer of Our Ladies Nairobi. And diversity is important to me because it fosters an inclusive environment where individuals from all backgrounds feel respected, valued, and included for their unique differences.
Cool, thank you. I'm not sure, like I think Emmy has problems with the video or the connection, so I'll pass on to Megan, and and we'll go with Emmy last.
Hi, my name's Megan Rogers. I'm from Cape Town in South Africa. And yeah, I'm an analytics engineer. And yeah, I think coming from South Africa, especially with our history of prejudice, today diversity is more important than ever, and it really encompasses so many things if it's embraced fully, especially such as equal representation of races, gender, cultures, and especially in the tech field, such as R and Shiny. I think embracing diversity is especially important, so that the tools and technologies that we're building for others in the real world are actually relevant to this world, which is so incredibly diverse. And so I think for me, that's really why it's important to really embrace diversity in all manners, in terms of in our tech and teams that we are building to build this tech.
I couldn't agree more, to be honest, personally. Thank you so much. Let's give it a try, Emmy, if the connection is stable.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Audio
excellent.
works perfect.
Yeah, apologies, my video was flicking a lot, so you'll not have to see my face in this session. But hi everyone, I'm Emmy, and I'm a senior lecturer in statistics. And certainly I think diversity is very important. Definitely I see this like even when I'm actually teaching as well, that having a bit of different views, actually I also learn, even though I actually lecture, and teach people how to use R and how to make Shiny apps. But I learn from actually students who also have a different view to that.
Muna, I think we don't hear the audio. At least it's, or probably it's me. No.
Okay, I'm all done.
I'm sorry, but I can take over until the audio is fixed. No, it's still not working.
Not working? Can you hear me?
No. I mean, it's working for you. It's not working for Muna. That was the issue. I think depending on which browser you're using, so if you go for Firefox or Google Chrome, this usually works best. But I can do the next round if you want. So excellent. That was a really short and brief introduction. And as you can see, like we've got a quite diverse panel at place, not only like geographically. I mean, Emmy, for instance, she's joining from Australia, and like most of the rest of us is somewhat in the European time zone niche, at least. But we also got some kind of diverse background here, and we were really hoping that this wildflower bouquet that we have here really brings something to the table. I think Muna is coming back, so let's give it a try. Is it working? No. I think it's not. No worries. I think it might be the browser, or if you're refreshing the page, but we'll go on and see how it works. Okay. Then now that we've learned a bit about you, I think what we could do is now let's go in the same round if you want, and let's tell us something about your background with Shiny. So coming from like different disciplines, different backgrounds, different like industry versus academic, how do you use Shiny, and how does it probably also help you in your everyday lives? Let's start again with Tresna.
Okay, so currently I'm an R Shiny developer, so I use Shiny actually in a daily basis. And yeah, I think like the interesting part being a Shiny developer in Epsilon is the opportunity for me to work with a lot of different and unique, very unique kind of applications made in Shiny, like intended for different objectives. Like sometimes I work in application for corporates, or sometimes we can also work Shiny related to our Data for Good initiatives, and it's really exciting. But before I joined Epsilon for a Shiny developer, I actually came from a data science background. I was a data scientist, and I mainly use Shiny for analysis purpose and also for presenting data. But yeah, the more and more I use Shiny, I realized that I just really enjoy working with Shiny. That's why I think in every, because like data science is very broad, like you have like many things and many kinds of responsibility, but I just found that developing Shiny is the best part of the job, of my job, because of like how easy it is and how amazing that things that we can build. So that's why I decided to continue as a Shiny developer. And yeah, that's from my side.
That's cool. Thank you. Shell, if you want.
Yeah, so R is my primary tool for analytics, and for the past 18 months, my main focus has been developing Shiny apps and dashboards. And right now, a colleague and I are working on a very awesome tool to monitor data collection for a global survey initiative focused on agriculture. And previously, it was difficult for many implementing agencies to monitor data collection effectively. And to do so, for each new survey, they will need to write scripts to download data, to generate reports, and to process incoming interviews. And with our app, we are just trying to streamline this process completely. And for this global survey initiative, we have developed template reports and template scripts for data processing. And with the app, we capture a few basic details from the user and allow the user to adapt the reports and then undertake complex actions on behalf of the user in terms of like acquiring data, generating reports, and automating rejection or approval of incoming interview. And our tool has a very linear process where information is collected from one tab and is used in another tab. We've utilized modules a lot and R6 classes to streamline this process. And survey managers no longer need to go to their data collection application to download data or to write code to check its quality. With just a few clicks, they can specify the questionnaire template, enter some details, and our tool does the rest. And I'm incredibly excited about this project and its potential impact. We are really hoping we can present our work at ShinyConf 2024, hopefully. Thank you.
That would be amazing. That would be, I mean, it sounds really cool and really advanced. That's really promising. And if I remember correctly, you're also working on Shiny mobile apps, right? If I remember, like, probably if I remember correctly, you presented something at RStudio Conf last year.
Yeah, yeah. It's a talk on YouTube on the playlist, but yeah, I've been discovering a lot of things in Shiny. When I gave that talk, the main thing I was dealing with was the main thing I was excited about was CSS. Nowadays, I'm very excited about JavaScript. Shameless plug. If you want to learn JavaScript with us, we just started a new book club in R4DS. We don't know, okay, at least I know something right now. I'm really happy that JavaScript has some relations with R. I was so impressed. So if you want to learn with us, please feel free to join.
That's cool, and it also shows how closely Shiny is connected with so many different languages and so many different tools. It's not just I mean, like, it's put the quotation marks here. It's not just R or not just Python if you use Python for Shiny, Shiny for Python this way around, but it's so much more that is connected here. Let's give it a try. I think Muna is back, and let's see if the audio is working. No. I'm so sorry. I was no worries about that. We'll get there. We still have a bit more time. Okay, then we'll go for the next one. Megan, if you want, tell us about your background with Shiny and how do you use it and how, like, your experience basically with it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I came out of university and having only really used Excel. In my first job, I started working with larger and larger data sets and databases. And those current skills just weren't cutting it anymore. And I actually started learning R through an edX course and really haven't looked back since then. I then moved into data science consulting, and for me, that's where I first learned about Shiny. And it really was revolutionary, especially in terms of dealing with clients, because I just thought, wow, I can basically have full control and deliver something from start to finish. And it also really helped me understand the development lifecycle, from prototyping to understanding the back end and the front end and how all these components fit together in a really sort of easily digestible way that Shiny does. That wasn't apparent to me from other sort of frameworks. And so I've used it a lot in terms of consulting work and to demonstrate an idea, do a dashboard, internal tools for other teams, and then also used it quite a lot for sort of personal projects. So one of them is an educational app to help geolocate schools in South Africa. And another one that I did, I was actually chatting to my brother, and he's a lecturer at the University of Stellenbosch, and he was having problems teaching his class about survival analysis, and this is a biology course, and they were using an Excel file and they had to develop these models and do a tutorial. So I actually said, well, let's do a quick Shiny app. So I took the Excel file and converted the models and into an app, and he still uses it now, I think 3 years down the line with his course, and they all have to submit a tutorial using this app, and it's really helped him just to demonstrate interactively what this model is actually doing. And yeah, it was so great because it was so easy to do. It's open source, and for me, that's the real benefit is finding those applications where you can have a big impact with really sort of minimal work, which is really what the Shiny framework does for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, there are actually 2 points where I think you're just more than right, actually, because for once, if we think of Shiny, it really shows the whole like life cycle. You start with wireframing, like at least for me, it's like that. If I start with the Shiny app, I always sketch it down on a paper first. I mean, you start overly complex, then you simplify things, and then you get like basically started, and then you do the data input. You think about like how to build stuff, then you think about how to make it more efficient, and it's just great because it goes like setting up a simple Shiny app is just simple. And I think that's like one of the key advantages here. And also for the survival analysis, I mean, like with Shiny, you have so many tools at hand that you can show so many cool things and make them interactively. I think that's really like one major advantage here. Yeah, I like that resembles a lot with what I also think about Shiny. Emmy, if you want.
Yeah, so it's really nice to hear everyone's story, and I can relate a lot. I got started really with Shiny. It was really research, and I was working with a domain scientist, a plant breeder, and I constructed an app so that way they can actually explore the results out of it. And I think part of Shiny, what's really great is that previously, when you send the results to people, it's sort of like driven by what I think the people should see. So it's like driven by the person who created it. But then with Shiny, because you give this interactivity, you can kind of like have them as co-author of what they get to see. So because they can drive the narrative of like which to check what kind of results are out there. So I think I really like that because it actually helps to really get more people involved and look at what's happening in terms of the statistics as well. more recently, I've been using it for teaching. I do teach Shiny to students, but what I also do is that nowadays we kind of faced with a bit of a challenge of like, making sure students can't easily, use ChatGPT to do their assessments. So I'm trying to think of a way to actually make it so that they all get like a unique assignment. And then so part of it is that I've used Shiny to create like a unique data set that they can download. And also now the marking is a bit of a challenge because now there's a unique answer for each one of them. So now also using Shiny, basically you can kind of get like the unique template of what the answer is as well. So it's really helped streamline those kind of processes where previously I had to do like a pretty long-winded way of doing things like this.
I'm just waiting for Muna to take over and hope the microphone is working now.
I hope
Let's give it
so.
a
Are
try.
you hearing
Yes,
me? Okay.
finally. Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry. So yeah, you are so pleased to have you among us today, and it was so exciting to hear about your experience. So this brings us to the next question. What do you think? So think that you should have, like in your path, you should have known before, at the beginning. Meaning, maybe what would have given someone as an advice, someone who is having like a fresh start in the field. Maybe I would like to hear at the beginning from Shell.
Oh my gosh, I think I could write a book about this. How many hours do we have? First of all, the very first time I built a Shiny app, or even tried to, I think was in 2017 or 2018, and things were quite tough. These things were really tough. I feel like beginners right now are having it easy. I'm not jealous at all. We are living in different times, and yeah, thankfully there are so many resources available for beginners to leverage. But I think for me, I want to talk about, I just want to give advice to people who are starting out. And number one, it takes more than just excellent R codes to be, like R coding skills to be a good Shiny developer. Shiny development involves more than just writing good R code. I believe I'm an R coder, but a good R coder, but I still struggle with some concepts in Shiny. Also, learning about modules is crucial for anyone starting with Shiny. Like, modules provide a very efficient way to break down a Shiny app into smaller, more manageable parts, making your code easier to read, right? And also maintain. And using modules can save a lot of time and effort in the long run. And as Emily pointed out in her talk yesterday, modules shouldn't be considered an advanced topic. They should, they actually makes a lot of sense for beginners. And also Fothil discussed the topic of performance, which is very important for beginners. It's crucial to learn how to write efficient R code to ensure that your app runs smoothly. And one way to achieve this is by maybe only loading the necessary data. Whenever possible, try pull data from an API or a database and avoid shipping data with your app. And during Fothil's talk, Damian, who I believe is the president of Epsilon, posted a comment that caught my attention, and I'm going to read it aloud very fast. Mohammed mentioned a very important point. A slow app means your code is slow. That's important to understand, especially if you plan to create a big application. The biggest pain is the application that grew over the years without a software engineering approach. Trust me, it's painful. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong. Very often the app from the start is built at rapid speed and it's experimental, especially when you want to please the client. But it's crucial to identify the right moment to work on the tech debt to avoid getting too far with bad code. I have that screenshot somewhere and I'm going to save it because someone should have told me that at the beginning. And my last point on this will be, like, I think we should consider developing Shiny apps that can solve problems Shiny apps that can solve problems or streamline work processes. Like, did you guys see Emmanuel's Genome's Shiny app yesterday, and the Gantt chart app that Joki and Wadwan presented today? I was also thoroughly impressed by the Epsilon team. They have partnered with Olpajeta Conservancy here in Kenya, which is only a short drive away from home, to test one of their AI products. These apps are amazing. Shiny apps to me are more than just BI tools. It's important to create apps that offer unique capabilities that traditional BI tools cannot match. And this will help people understand and appreciate the full potential of Shiny. Yeah, that's what I would advise people.
Yeah, this is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this, your like great experience with us. What about you, Megan?
Yeah, I think my advice would, number one, to get involved in the community and really put yourself out there. So I had quite a sort of hesitation in the beginning to start learning any coding language. And my partner at the time actually encouraged me to go and join Our Ladies Cape Town. And I ended up actually helping to organize and run and start the chapter. And this really helped me see that a programming language can be so much more than just writing code. And it's really the community that you're part of. And it really helped give me a lot of confidence, learn from others. And yeah, and then also, I think as someone new starting out, just to point out, my last 2 career moves have been directly because of my involvement in the R community and the people that I've met along the way. So and also, yeah, really just putting yourself out there. And then something else that I think can always be quite overwhelming when you're starting out is, yes, there's so many great resources out there, but that can also be hugely overwhelming, just knowing where to start or what to focus on. And my advice is always to find something that's applicable to your day-to-day job, because then you can really apply what you're learning in your own time, or even if you are fortunate enough to have some time during work to learn a new skill. And taking those learnings from a tutorial or something and actually applying it to your real world work really helps to speed up that learning process. And yeah, of course, this might not always be possible, especially if you're wanting to make a career move or something. And yeah, my suggestion then is to really also start personal projects and have an online portfolio. For example, on GitHub or GitLab or something. When I do interviews, one of the first things I do, rather than looking at a CV, is to go and check if the candidate has an online repository of projects or tutorials or work they've done, because I think this can really show your aptitude for learning and the potential that you might have. So yeah, those would be my tips for starting out with R and Shiny, but actually any coding language or technology that you're wanting to get into.
Yeah, this is really amazing. And like, I can't agree more on the fact about being part of a community. It's like so much important, especially being part of Our Ladies communities. Yeah, what about you, Amy? What do you think?
So one of the advices that I give to my students is that even before you start coding, think about sketching out what the app is going to look like. So I think a lot of my students kind of went in and then they don't know like the goal or like what do they want to show, where do you want to put the buttons and so forth. So I encourage them a lot to actually first just draw it out first. Forget about the coding. You need to know what you want to display. So that will be one of my biggest advice if you're trying to make a Shiny app. Coding, once you get into it, there's so much, you forget about the overall design aspects sometimes. So think about that first. The second part about is that I also teach how to debug Shiny because so many things go wrong. And I consider myself quite an expert, but even I get things wrong so many times. And debugging in Shiny is actually a bit of a challenge. So that's one of the things that I teach from the get-go. So they know how to actually unravel themselves if they get ever into like a situation where they need to debug.
Amazing. Yeah, maybe this brings us to Teresa. What do you think?
Yeah, so got a second Emmy also regarding debug. It can be very tricky to debug Shiny application, and yeah, regarding debug, I think another tips that I would give to myself or anyone that startup is, so there are two. I think the first one is try to understand the reactive elements in your application. Try to understand how the reactive elements interact with each other, because like I think I remember when I first start off building my first Shiny application. Of course, it's very simple. I only use like simple reactive, simple inputs. But like as we get more fluent, the application that we create is getting more bigger and getting more and more complex, and that's when the reactives element kind of tangled or intertwined with each other, and it gets very hard to debug. And if you get used to say reading the reactive log, the reactivity graph, then it could be very helpful for you to debug the application later on when your app getting just get bigger. And then another thing, I guess, is to start off with a good habit. Um, Keep your codes clean. Like there are tools like Linter or Styler. Try to achieve consistent style. It's not only beneficial for you. So in the future, if you want to revisit the application that you built, you can understand it better. But it also would be beneficial for a future collaborator that wants to collaborate or contribute to your project. And yeah, speaking of that. It also best to keep your code well documented. So yeah, you can, like, if you whenever you revisit your code, you could understand it more, and again, future collaborator can easily understand your code. And yeah, that's all I think.
That's like the perfect bridge, actually, for the next question, Tanisha. So let's also start with you, if you want, because we were talking about so many different skills that you need for developing Shiny apps. What would you consider like essential soft and hard skills? Like probably besides coding, and I also saw it in the discussion that people were talking about what a Shiny developer needs. So what are your thoughts here?
Okay, I think the thing, yeah, one of the thing is, so problem solving is pretty obvious, like, because like debug is one of like the challenge that probably would need the skill of problem solving, and you will debug a lot if you work with many Shiny application. And another thing that I just realized also importance is also the importance of teamwork, because especially in data science field, you don't work alone. You always work in a team. You always, like, there are people contributing with you. So having this skill of teamwork actually would give you a lot of benefits in the field. And yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And not only in the Shiny field, right? Like being a good team player is always an essential key component whenever you like. I mean, it goes for life as well in a way. It's nice of that you brought it up. Thank you so much for that. Shell, what do you think?
One essential soft skill, I believe, for Shiny development is effective communication. It's common to face challenges while developing your app, and you need to be able to explain your situation in simple terms to someone who doesn't have an in-depth understanding of how your app works. And additionally, it's important to reach out for help early on when you encounter issues. Spending 24 to 48 hours debugging your code alone may not be the best approach. It's likely that someone else has faced a similar problem before, and seeking help early can save you a lot of time and frustration.
Yeah, and also like knowing kind of the right time when to ask for help, that's really, I mean, you always know, like in the end, that the right time to ask for help would have been 10 hours earlier probably, and not, not like, I mean, it's always good to reach out. That's true. Megan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Shell. I think my number one sort of soft skill is definitely communication. And yeah, I think especially it's true in so many of our working environments now that are remote, and that can add another barrier to communication where it's constantly online. And yeah, I think it's really important to constantly practice your communication skills, both for spoken and written word. And this is, so in terms of written communication, like having good documentation goes such a long way. And yeah, I really think that is important. And yeah, in terms of hard skills, for me, it's really helped to actually have a broad understanding of several technologies, programming languages, frameworks, so that I have context of what other people might be talking about, especially if you're working with other teams or other clients. But then to focus in on, so that you have a deeper understanding of some of those. And you'll never know everything. So I always try and focus my sort of hard skills on like following a T, where you have that broad understanding, but you really focus in on what you want to focus on yourself and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then I think for me, in terms of being involved in data science and working in several projects, clients, companies, outside of your core programming language, I would recommend to learn SQL. I always tell everyone, if you're going to choose the next language to learn after R or Python or whichever is your primary coding language, is to learn SQL. At some point in your career, you're going to come across a database, and just having that as a tool in your toolbox is hugely beneficial. Yeah, so there's...
Absolutely. And you never know what your next profession is going to be, or the next project you're working on. Probably you have to query like large databases, and then SQL definitely comes in more than handy. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Emmy, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I am echoing what Shell and Megan also said about communication. That is actually one of the things that is of primary importance. And it's something that I feel like we don't do well enough in teaching, I have to say. In part also because I was a maths and stats major. And then when I did things, I always did assignments alone, and like, you know, they were all individual assessments. But when you get out into the real world, really being able to actually understand the perception of others, so you are actually, the information that you provide is getting across. And I think sometimes, you know, we do number crunching, and then doesn't mean that just because you present the numbers, it's understood. And I think that's the thing, is like, how do you actually present it so that it's actually consumable by others? And also, are we answering the questions that people are actually asking? Like, so these are kind of really soft skills that I feel like sometimes if you're a statistics major, you don't actually learn enough, but very important in the world of like consulting or problem solving. So yeah, that's part of it, what I really think is really important. And I think also the thing about it is that it's one of those skill sets whereby it's actually hard to tell whether you're doing it effectively or not without talking to somebody else. So you need that feedback in order to actually improve as well. So I think if you can put yourself in a place where you are talking with others, and then also kind of reflect back on either getting feedback from others, how well your communication is going, that will be helpful. hard skill wise, I think this is actually a bit easier to improve because generally speaking, if your coding doesn't work, you know it straight away. So I think this is a matter of like, reading the resources out there and like, doing a lot of practice. I feel like that really helps. And I think when you get to teach, it's a bit quite fortunate place because when you teach, I feel like I actually understand things a lot more. So I guess that will be one way, like, is that if you want to improve your hard skill, one of the things is to actually teach it to somebody. I think that really is so try to explain what you've learned to others. And if you can do that effectively, I think that is quite valuable.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think it's time maybe to move to the Q&A part. You have one interesting question from the audience. So what do you think, what are some initiatives that individual Arshani developers can do to improve the diversity and inclusivity of local art communities? So maybe you can start with Tanesia.
Okay, so I think in terms of diversity and inclusivity, for us as current developers, the first thing that we can do is to give to make sure that we have welcoming environment for everyone that wants to learn. So anyone, we don't see like how what is their background, and for example, or the expertise that they have. We don't see that. We just accept everyone that wants to learn, and just make sure that we can give support without any judgment, and give some help whenever they need. And I think that's like the simple thing, but could be meaningful for promoting this diversity.
Yeah, I totally agree. What about you, Shell? What are the initiatives that you think are important and can empower our local communities?
I think creating mentorship programs that pair experienced art developers with individuals who are just starting out. This can help provide a very supportive environment for beginners, which also helps in building a more diverse and inclusive community.
Amazing. Yeah, what about you, Megan?
Yeah, I think just speaking from my experience of organizing Our Ladies, it's also, it can be quite challenging at times to constantly find speakers. And I think what would be really nice is if other developers in Shiny and R also reach out to local communities to actually present at and just help showcase their background, their context, the skills, what they're working on. And especially with so many meetings online now, it's easier and easier to do that around the world and really have a sort of a global local community where we can all learn from each other. And yeah, so I think again, it comes to also just putting yourself out there, having confidence in yourself that you've got something worthwhile to share. And yeah, I think that having a greater pool of people to draw on to sort of present and give talks at these kinds of meetups will just really help increase the diversity and make sure that we are including people from all over and different backgrounds.
And if I may add, the pandemic, as horrible and as dramatic as it has been, it kind of brought all the world a bit closer together, at least in the, like, that's my feeling, at least in the Our Ladies world. Because when I started off, I was giving a talk at Our Ladies Bergen, then Our Ladies Tunis, and this would never have been possible, I guess, without the pandemic. So like there's also the kind of mentoring and support group that Shell was talking about. It's something that I personally, at least, can totally see in Our Ladies, which is a really nice community. And also Pi Ladies for sure, but like now we're talking more about Our here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to add something, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot what everyone said as well, and Our Ladies in particular has been fantastic in increasing the diversity. And also, I think it's something I have to say. I think we all have to be really conscious about it, because I think, it's something that easily can slip up, right? Like if you're not really conscious about it, we all have like implicit biases. And I noticed this as well. As much as I'm conscious as well, sometimes I notice that, oh, okay, wait a minute, I didn't think about whether we have diversity in our speakers. And I have to, make sure to remind myself quite often to make sure I do have that. So I think panels like this is excellent, that we have discussion, keep it on top of our mind that this is something that we have to ongoingly, discuss and make sure that we remind ourselves, but also at the same time, we also know that we want a society that actually embraces diversity.
Absolutely. Yeah, what about you, Shell? Do you have one thing to add, maybe?
On the diversity question.
Yes, so it's like about any initiative that you feel it's important to know about it, like, or maybe any initiative that people who are part of our community that maybe should take to empower the diversity in local communities.
Well, I've spoken about mentorship. I think also just encouraging people to present their work. Some people tend to be very timid, especially those who are starting out. So if we just encourage people to present what they've developed, as much as it's not really like a full-blown app, then it's good. I always say I am one person who will learn how to fry an egg, and I will broadcast it to the world because it's something I'm always proud of.
Yeah, agree. So this brings us to the next question from the Q&A. So sorry, what are you most excited maybe about the future of Shiny? If maybe someone would like to talk about Shiny for Python, what do you think? Maybe I can start with Amy. If
I haven't done the Shiny for Python, but when I saw that announcement come out, oh wow, that was so exciting. You don't need a server behind the scenes running. That is amazing. So I'm looking forward to playing around with it when I get a chance. So that is definitely what I'm quite excited about.
Yeah. So what about you, Megan? Did you take the chance to walk through it, or maybe not yet?
I haven't yet, but I'm really excited about it. I actually mostly use Python now on a day-to-day basis in my current job. So, and with a mix of R in there. So it's really exciting that the Shiny framework is available, or being built out now, and going to just grow and grow. So I'm definitely very excited to check that out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your opinion. What about you, Tanisha? Did you get the chance to use it or not yet?
Yeah, I also haven't got a chance to use it, but I'm actually very excited because when I was still working as a data scientist, I also work a lot with other frameworks in Python, such as Flask. And I think like the challenge with Flask is that you need to understand at least HTML to build the UI. And I find that some people that want to build something, just a simple reporting, for example, in Python, kind of struggle with that. And like having this Shiny in Python, it kind of like shares the spirit of just focus on the data, then you can like instantly create a report. So I'm actually very excited, so people can also have can feel like the beneficial of using it.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, what about you, Shell? Any recommendation?
I've also not really tried Shiny for Python, but just the idea of it. Sorry for our dogs, but the idea of having Shiny in Python to me sounds exciting because I feel like Shiny is like once you understand the concept, then you're good to go. And for some of us, Python can be very scary. So at least when I start developing Shiny apps in Python, I'll have that encouragement that I actually know how Shiny works. Maybe I'll just struggle with a few Python codes here and there. And actually, away from Shiny for Python, one thing I'm excited about in Shiny right now is that I love that we are learning new tech skills away from R. Like we are learning CSS, we are learning HTML, we are learning JavaScript, Docker. You know, some of the things that you wouldn't even have thought that we could have even, I don't know, handled. And so we are gradually gaining new skills while developing these Shiny apps, which to me is very crucial. Like I never thought I would ever learn CSS or JavaScript. And you know what? We don't know what maybe what we'll be learning in like 2-3 months. Things are still coming up. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your opinions about R for Shiny and Shiny for Python. I'm sorry. So I think you are done with the questions. I would like to invite people who were not able to ask like their questions to ask. I will be able to ask them on the Slack of Shiny Epsilon Shiny conference. I would like to thank you for being among us. We are really so excited to hear from you and to know better about your experiences. I don't know, Cosima, if you have something to add.
Actually not, like you did the perfect closing. So I can just reiterate, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks the audience for being so patiently here. Thanks for Muna's like consistency in coming back and that technology finally worked. It was great having you all here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And don't forget to join the recap, like after our panel, that will be a recap. So you'll get better to know about what you did yesterday, today. Goodbye. Thank you.